my video last week, I talked about, so there are a lot of guys have gone to lithium batteries.
Mhm.
So you're stripping, let's call it 250 pounds out off the transom that used to be there.
Yep.
And on top of that, they're adding a 360 unit right on the bow. They're adding a live scope turret mount right on the bow. So now we're really starting to weigh the fronts of those boats over. Short of extending your jack plate or putting all your tackle in the back, is there something you can do from a prop standpoint to potentially help that?
Yeah, so it's either getting more of the gear case out of the water, so running the engine higher, and otherwise stepping down to props that have a little bit less blade area overall. And the Bravo One, whether it be our FS or our LT, has really been a go-to for guys during this whole transition.
Really?
Because it's 15.25 inch diameter, but the blades don't have a giant belly to them. And then with the FS, we trim the barrel down to really help settle that stern even more. Another issue that we've run into with these setups over the past is a lot of guys had like the 300 horse supercharged L6 Verados, and now they're offering these setups with the conventional midsection V8, like the 300 Pro XS. It's actually 150 to 200 pounds lighter than that L6 package. So that also takes a lot of weight off the stern, and you really need to either shift weight back in the boat or set the engine back farther to compensate.
Okay, we're way above my pay grade here. Why does reducing the size of the prop help with this problem? That doesn't compute in my head, Nick.
So in order to run at higher heights, you still want to have that diameter to make sure the prop's still efficient and not losing grip. But in order to counteract excessive stern lift, you want the belly or the chord lengths of the props to be shorter. So as you increase the length of those blades, all that's going to add to stern lift.
But you can still maintain bite on those props when you lift them higher.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's again why the Bravo FS has been so popular, because we cut that flare off of the barrel, which reduces a lot of stern lift on its own. And then the Bravo itself with the blade geometry out near the tips, the chord lengths aren't super long.
Okay, I'm sorry, chord length.
Yep. So if you think of the blade of a propeller, the measurement from the trailing edge to the leading edge, that's called the chord length.
Okay.
So you can measure the chord length at any diameter, but say it's a 15-inch prop with a 7.5-inch radius. You might start with taking a chord length measurement at 3 3/4 inch measurement, starting from prop shaft center line.
Okay.
And that'll give you a 50% chord length measurement down the face of the blade. And you use what we call a diameter wheel to measure this. That gives you a measurement off of the center line of the prop shaft, and you scribe it down along the face of the blade. So as the prop rotates and you're marking the blade as you go, that measurement would stay at 3 3/4 yes off the center.
So you guys did a cool piece. Is it called Prop School?
Yep. Yeah, we have.
It talks about this exactly.
Yeah, we're up to 11 or 12 parts now on the Prop School on the Mercury Racing blog, and every single little part is dedicated to talking about pitch, barrel length, all the different characteristics that go into making a prop perform.
I'm about 4 into that. I just found them, so I kind of went down a rabbit hole. So guys, I'll put a link to that below so you can go check that out. Are y'all still producing those then?
We are. Yeah, anytime we get a lot of certain questions on a topic, and we feel like it would be a good amendment to the Prop School series, we'll certainly add it in.
Good deal. So you said something a second ago, and it was actually one of the questions I told you beforehand I wanted to talk about. Talk to us about tube length. And now, guys, this is specific to, and I've talked about it. I'm not picking on them, but the Skeeter FXR. When I tested that boat at low speed had a tendency to want to porpoise a little bit. And as we talk, there's probably a solve for that in just making a prop change. And so, talk a little bit about what that is and how that functions.
Yeah, so the barrel length has a lot of different attributes, benefits. It can be not
Okay.
beneficial.
Let me stop you, Dave. Okay,
Yep.
so guys, the barrel length is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's just the barrel of the prop that the ears come off of, how long that is.
Yep. Yeah. So aside from anything to do with the blades, we can really have free reign on what the barrel itself looks like and is shaped like. So there's all sorts of different lengths. There's also different degrees of flares on some barrels.
And flare is I always chuckle when I think of flare because I grew up with Elmer Fudd, and he had the shotgun that had the barrel at the end that flared out, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of the same thing some of the props do, right? They have a flare at the end of it.
Yeah, you're spot on. So it can be used in many different ways. I can run through them if you're okay.
Yeah,
with
please.
that.
So talk first about barrel short.
Yep.
So like the Bravo, there's a short and a long, right?
Yep.
So if you took those two props, same boat, what would the performance or what would the feel difference be between those two?
Sure. So as you go longer, it's more stern lift, like we were talking about. And it has similar effects with lowering a trim tab without having to drag a trim tab through the water, and it doesn't sacrifice quite as much speed.
Okay.
So it brings the bow down, and it's also really beneficial for planing, similar to a trim tab. It'll pop the boat up on plane without letting the bow really shoot to the moon.
So if a guy's okay with this performance, but he's struggling with his hull shot, the word we use, a longer tube can help.
Yeah, as long as he's okay with having a little bit more stern lift on top end as well. I think of some of these bass boats that get up into the 70, 75 plus mile an hour range, and even way beyond that. Obviously, you don't want too much stern lift on top end in those applications. The rear end will start to get pretty flighty on you.
You know, but interestingly, a lot of the guys that are watching this video are not trying to go 80. They're trying to go 70.
Yep.
Right? They're trying to get that extra, because very few of us have an Allison boat.
Yep.
And you know, even my Bass Cat 76 is flying to me. I'm super fine right there.
Yeah, that's
it's really fast. But a lot of guys, like the guy who reached out to me, he's got a 250 on 20-foot nitro. He's running the low 60s. So that's the guys that are really paying attention to trying to make a difference with the prop a lot of times.
Yep. Yep. So great for hole shot. It's also great for rough water handling. It doesn't let the bow jerk up and slap down as much in the rough water.
Again, like a trim tab, you just have more control.
Yep. Yeah, we call that the angle of attack. As the boat's going through the water, it'll make the bow really do its job as cutting through the waves through rough water. So a lot of guys up here in Erie, Lake Michigan, if they're getting into really big swells and they don't care too much about top end speed, they'll step way down in pitch and go with a prop that has a long barrel on it to keep that nose down on the rough and make the boat handle better.
Okay.
Otherwise, on a lot of the multi-species guys, you know, with the advent of the big 15-horse kicker and all the batteries in the back of the boat and all of that good stuff, having that flare really helps carry the boat through the water as well.
Okay, so you just changed subject on me right there. So the first thing we talked about was barreling, but then you talk about flare. So flare is just a next level to the same thing that barreling does?
So that just takes it to another level. I mean, you could have an 8-inch barrel, but if you've got a 7-inch one, but it's got a pretty aggressive flare on the end, it'll have just as much stern lift.
Okay, take us quickly through, if you don't mind, what are the longer barrel lengths in the Mercury lineup?
Sure. So we have the new Ventera, which has the same barrel length as the Rev 4, which gets out to about 9 inches. Otherwise, on like the Maximus is the longest one that we have. That's 9-inch with a full flare on the end as well. We offer 4 different lengths of barrels between the Maximus and the Max 5 line to really fine tune the barrel length on that one. And then our whole Bravo line, we have the LT, which retains the full stock length flare barrel. We cut it down 3/4 of an inch to the FS, which is great all around. Gives good lift, but still a little bit of stern lift for the guys that need that, but really lets the stern settle. And like we talked about before, good trim authority and enough trim that the guys can still pick the nose up if they need. Then we also make an OC Bravo that's got the barrel chopped almost all the way down to the blades. And that's really designed for twin outboard cats that generate lift on their own and they don't need any lift from the prop.
I don't think we finished the question. If I took this, well, let's go to the extremes. If I took that prop versus the full barrel prop, the full barrel Bravo, and put them on the same boat, what would I notice most? Just a lot more
So if the
transit.
like maybe compare like the FS to the LT. So we offer the same finishes, all the blades stay the same and everything like that. But you experience a little bit quicker hole shot with the LT. Again, it's going to keep the nose down on plane and just drive the boat forward. A little bit better rough water handling. If you go from, let's say, a Tempest to a Bravo LT, for a boat that likes the LT, there's a lot less of that slapping effect as you're going through waves. Again, that bow really just slices through. But as you get north of 60, a lot of times that's, 60 to 63 is about the limits of what the boats can take for the LT. Once you're getting up to 65 plus, they like the FS or a prop like the Tempest or the Fury. That lets the bow rise up more to get boat out of the water.
I never thought about that. I have for years carried a 4-blade prop that I would stick on there on the days when I knew it was just going to be super rough out there.
Mm-hmm.
I could basically do the same thing with a 3-blade, just with a lot longer tube and a flare.
Sure, yeah, you're spot on.
Just have better control. Because I always liked that 4 because I felt like, look, if you're in rough water, you're going to screw up. And a lot of times you have just an instant, if the boat reacts properly, to not do a submarine on one, right? Rinse the deck, as we call it down here.
Yep.
So I could get the same thing with a 3-blade with a longer tube.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So what else are you guys working on that you can talk about?
We've got a lot of cool projects in the works, especially on the prop side. I've got a project that'll be the next prop that we release that'll be very well in tune with this conversation, and I think you'll really like it. We're messing with variable extension tube lengths that customers can mess with and order up on their own. So that'll be a really cool project, and we look forward to releasing that this summer. The next up after that is another bass prop, something to replace the Promax. Again, more geared towards the faster Allisons and Bullets of the world, but I think it'll find its home on a lot of different applications, whether it be, Phoenix, Bass Cat, and all of those applications. So we just started testing with that, and we're in the very early stages, so I can't say what it looks like yet, but that's definitely at the top of the list to start really developing a nice bass prop again for 4-stroke applications on a little bit of the faster boats.
Cool deal. So this will be out, I think, the week before the Classic. So you'll be in the booth at the Classic?
I will.
All right.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Again, great to go from the Miami customers to the Classic. It's a complete 180 on the customer base.
There'll be more dip at the Classic.
Right.
Well, I don't know about that. A lot of those offshore guys, they'll stick a dip in on you.
Yep,
too,
yep. But all great customers all around. The Bass guys always have really great prop questions. The last 5 years that I've been going, I've been the only one for Mercury Racing because we sell so many props to that market, but not necessarily a whole lot of race engines specifically. But I've always enjoyed going there. It's a great show for us. And again, the percentage of people that come in the booth that have great prop questions to ask is higher there than any other show that I go to.
Anybody come up to you and say, "Hey, I saw you on Kinsmith Fishing"?
Yes, yeah. I get more questions about that or comments, and people saying that they appreciated the video than I could have ever imagined. So you definitely have a great customer base here.
Hey, they're not customers. They're just buddies, man. They're just guys that are just as redneck and as curious as I am. Okay, so to that point, if a guy's going to come into the booth and ask you a question about his prop, what data do you need from him to help him?
Sure. So I'd ask, what are you running? Which family of prop, which pitch, obviously what motor and boat. If he tells me the motor, I'll know kind of what RPM range. And typically we only offer 1 or 2 gear ratios on those motors. So I'll ask him gear ratio as well if there are multiple options.
Because most of them, the Torque Masters are all 1.75, right?
Yep.
What else might there be?
On the HT gear case, on a 300, there's 1.85 ratio now as well. And then on the racing lines, on the 400 and 450, we go down to a 1.6.
Okay. So you got to know that.
Yep.
Got to know
You
your
have
prop.
to know that. Yep. what he's running for wide open speed, and what RPM he's able to turn. So if he's right on the money for RPM, right where he should be, right in the power band of the engine, I'll say, okay, that's great. You have a great starting point. What are the other attributes that you want to improve upon? So if it's fuel economy, top end speed, whole shot, whatever it might be, we can go from there. So it all depends on what they're looking for.
Right. And to your point there, and I did a video about it actually since you and I have talked. You can have, look, outboard motors are awful on gas mileage. They suck. I mean,
Yep.
my motor wide open is 3.5 maybe.
Yep.
You can impact that pretty dramatically with a prop, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, wide open is always going to be wide open.
Crappy,
You need the fuel to make the power. But at mid-range cruise, yeah, depending on what you're starting with, there's a lot of great options. If you're able to step up in pitch, and if you're able to step up to a prop that has a little bit more cup, in some instances, especially on the really fast guys, we can step them up to a 5-blade as well. Those are all things that'll really improve fuel economy.
Right. All right. So, guys, it's exactly what I said in my video the other day. We need to know. And by the way, I think it also may be a little bit helpful to also know if you have a hydraulic jack plate, what you see in RPMs and speed by going up and down too, right?
Right. Yeah. So hydraulic jack plates are a beautiful thing and a great tool for us prop guys in dialing setup. If you've got enough travel on that lift, you'll be able to get to the point where RPMs will go up, but speed will not. And that'll give you an exact reference point on when that prop is losing efficiency.
So to that point, I never really thought about that. You want to lift it till your speed drops and then just drop it right back down a little bit, right?
Yeah. So gosh, I don't know. One of my coworkers is a Lund 202 with a 300R. From all the way down, he can raise it up about 3 inches, and that'll be, like 6,200 RPM, 62 miles an hour. If he goes above that, he can hit the rev limiter at 6,400, but he's still sitting at 62 miles an hour. So the speed doesn't necessarily decrease. It's just the RPM will climb and climb and climb, and you won't be going any faster.
Right. Okay. Good deal.
And
Well,
that's
man,
been another great tool of switching over to the bigger gear case 4-strokes. Is you don't have to be set on running a big gear case at one point. You can bury it deep, get out of the hole, lightning fast, and then raise it as high as you can to be more efficient than ever.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny. At some level, I'm scared of my jack plate. And because I'm afraid of lifting it too much. I've never experienced it where I lifted it too much and lost bite, but I know that's a possibility.
Sure.
So I've kind of dialed it in at 2, and that's where I leave it. But maybe I need to experiment with it a little bit more.
Yeah, and it all depends on again what the customer is looking to do. We have everyone for guys that just want to cruise around at 50, get to the fishing hole, fish, and cruise back. Other guys want to race there at 80 miles an hour and get every last bit of speed out of their setup that they can. So it just depends on what the guys are into and how much they want to get out of the boat.
It's all based on their age, baby. Us 60-year-olds, we just want to get there. Get there comfortably.
Yep.
Man, thanks for joining us again.
Anytime, Ken. It's always great to talk with you, and you keep the questions coming. I'm always happy to answer them.
I wish I was going to be at the Classic, but I'm not going to be there. But guys, go by and say hey to Nick. And again, he's great at answering these questions. He's helped me a whole bunch, and he's helped a couple of other guys that I've steered his way as well. So we appreciate you doing what you do. And good to know you're a racing guy. I mean, that makes perfect sense, but I never had any idea.
Yeah, I've been getting into it a lot more over the last couple of years, and man, just having that race boat sit in the garage, it's just always a fun thing to tinker on. And we have a great racing organization up here called the UMPBA that I race through, and it's just such a fun sport.
I guess right now, not a lot of racing going on.
No, the lake's pretty hard right now, and we actually just got 8 inches of snow this morning.
Oh my gosh.
I was hoping to take the boat out of storage this weekend, but that's not going to happen.
It's brutal here. It's like 50. It's so cold.
I don't feel so bad. I was shoveling in 30 degrees this morning.
All right, man. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Ken. Take care, everyone.